Paramount is betting that bigger is better in streaming, but a new note argues there could be a different winner as consumers grow less loyal to platforms and more loyal to creators, sports, and cultural moments. More, we're bringing out Ian Baer, founder and CEO of Sooth. Ian, it is great to see you again. So start big picture here.
Sure thing.
This Paramount WBD deal, you think a lot of folks on Wall Street maybe sort of just misunderstanding where this media industry is and where it's headed. What do you mean by that?
Well, there was so much focus on consolidation and getting all these networks
bigger
and all these
is better,
bigger is better.
Scale.
But you go back to the old adage of, I've got 1,000 channels on my TV and there's nothing to watch. This isn't really a volume game anymore. That we, so much when it comes to entertainment, have become a society of tribes. We have people who are in fan culture, let's say, connected to all of those superhero properties and sci-fi properties that now Paramount has under one roof, right? But with DC and Star Trek and all that. But that's only like 8% of streamers are those fandom types. About 3/4 of the people who stream significantly, who have at least 3 or 4 streaming services, they're more there to be a part of the pop culture moments, to stay on top of the news, especially in election years like this one and like we're going to have coming up in 28. They're going to go as the wind goes in terms of where the hottest cultural moments are happening. So if you're Paramount, having a certain number of titles, a certain number of properties is not as important as having the hot one, the stuff everyone's talking about. And increasingly, that's not happening in traditional streaming. It's happening in places like YouTube. It's happening in places like Patreon and Substack and all of the independent content creators. That's actually who we think will see the biggest windfall from this merger.
In other words, are you saying, Ian, the consumer, so Josh, you're saying he's not so loyal to a platform. He's loyal to the creator, the content. That's
right.
What it is? Okay.
You're loyal to your teams. You're loyal to certain directors, certain stars, certain genres. So it's not just going to be about having everything in one place. I mean, as long as HBO, in its new ownership model, where it really just gets absorbed, it's not going to be a standalone service anymore. It's just getting pulled into Paramount Plus. As long as they keep cranking out the stuff that has what we used to call, water cooler attraction, the stuff people feel like they need to be talking about to be culturally relevant. HBO's had a pretty good track record of that. In the new model, will they continue to do that culture-defining type of programming? Remains to be seen. It's wide open.
In sort of the world you're describing here, the one winner is YouTube, you mentioned. Why is YouTube a winner there?
Because YouTube right now often doesn't get recognized this way. It's the #1 TV network in America. Anyone who's not looking at it that way.
It is. My 7-year-old, that's all she's on is YouTube.
Well, and it's not just 7-year-olds. But yes, right? So think about as of course, who knows what the world is going to look like when your 7-year-olds at 27-year-old don't want to, depress you thinking about that as an empty nester myself. But it's not just 7-year-olds. It's Gen Z. They go to YouTube first. So a lot of younger millennials do. And more, as we're seeing the creators who have made their mark in more traditional broadcast TV, finding there's a lot more money and a lot more creative freedom as an independent creator on a platform like YouTube. But as I said, don't sleep on the next tier, the Substacks, the Patreons of the world that give these content creators even more freedom to monetize and express. So I think a lot of volume will shift that way, especially because of those high streaming households we talked about almost half, 47%, are planning to drop a service this year. Well, as the number of platforms they can choose from gets smaller through contraction, they're going to be cutting off some pretty big names. That was an
interesting stat, I thought, your note, that drop. Does that suggest also, is that kind of indicative of is it a streaming fatigue that's setting in? What do you make of that?
Some of it's just economic. I mean, if we look at what's happening in the job market, things are tightening up, people are nervous. What we've observed is people are more nervous than they are active in trying to figure out what's next. But as people get more and more concerned with how they spend their money, and as these streaming platforms start to resemble each other more, people are going to come to tough decisions and say, you know what, maybe what I'm spending on Paramount or on Peacock or on Netflix is more additive than it is cumulative.
I thought another point in your note was interesting to me, which was how you talked about how streaming platforms now, they have a lot of competition in content. And you talk about gaming, you talk about sports betting. How important is it for investors to recognize and appreciate that shift?
Well, really what we're talking about here are multi-screen streamers, right? If anyone who's thinking about the typical streamer being somebody who's just watching something on TV, that pertains maybe to the 70-plus consumers, but by and large, people are using multiple screens. They're using their phone, they're using their laptop, maybe using both at the same time. And what they're doing very often is providing themselves complementary content, whether it's commerce, right? I'm watching a cooking show and I want to buy that all-clad pan I just saw. Or I'm watching a sports event and I either want to place a bet, I want to buy a jersey, maybe I want to do both, maybe I want to buy tickets. All these things are happening simultaneously with people seamlessly working these multiple screens, and that is a behavior that year by year is moving from more of a youth-oriented behavior to just the way everyone watches TV. There are probably very few people watching this now who typically watch TV without a device in their hand.
On sports, I want to drill into that with you.
Sure.
You talk about how fans follow leagues.
Yes.
They follow rights packages. They don't follow networks.
Right.
First, explain that. And second, if that's true, who wins then? Does big tech win that?
So we're going to see a lot of change in the sports contract. We've already seen it, right? YouTube, taking over more with regard to the Super Bowl, and all of these things that we've always associated with, this network is the home of the World Series or of the NCAAs, or it's all fractionalizing. We see college conferences making their own independent TV deals. We've seen, of course, the dissolution of what has been the MLB streaming deal. A lot of teams having fallen off of that diamond contract that fell apart and now having to find their own way, sometimes with alternative streaming platforms, with an Amazon, with an Apple. So the more this stuff gets fractionalized, people are just going to go where they can see their favorite players, their favorite teams, wherever they have their money riding.
How much do you think the announcers play into this? Like for me as an NFL fan, I'll often look for certain announcers that I just love listening to.
Sure.
It could be a game I don't even care about, but if he's calling it, I like to listen.
Is this an announcer tied to one of your home teams?
No. I just think there's some announcers that are so smart and also entertaining. I get the full package and I'll just tune in for them.
And some who drive you crazy. Some where you just wish you could be listening to.
1,000% true.
Yeah, that's why I love one of the things, anyone who uses the MLB TV streaming app, they actually give the ability to choose the synced audio that goes with the video you're watching. So, if Joe Buck is getting you down and you'd rather listen to your, sorry Joe Buck, you'd rather listen to your home team announcer, you have that option. And unlike trying to sync up multiple devices, it automatically syncs the audio to the video so you don't have, strike 3 calls right before you see strike 2. So people are really feeling much more in control of all that. And they'll certainly follow the on-air talent the same way they follow the teams, the same way they follow the athletes. This is really becoming an on-demand world when it comes to almost any type of programming. And in a lot of ways, sports is blazing the trail for how a lot of other entertainment categories are going to have to operate.
Ian, always such a pleasure, especially on set. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.